Welcome to How to Scratch. In this lesson, we'll learn about navigating in Scratch interface, understanding and using best practices, and we'll be doing our first coding exercise. In this lesson, we'll be focusing on how to use Scratch, navigating in a coding environment, known as an integrated development environment. This is not meant for memorizing, but to get confident in Scratch.
A sequence of events is something which happens one at a time. Let's imagine Scratch is a waiter serving dinner.
Here's your appetizers. Here's your main dish. Here's your dessert.
This is similar when programming, as each block is executed one at a time, from top to bottom. Clicking the green flag will start your code. Separate the first block to see what happens and try to start again. Nothing happens until you add an event block. Event blocks will run based on an action. Here are a few key event blocks that will run based on the user's input. You might notice that the event blocks have a different shape from the other blocks. They are shaped like a hat. This is to indicate that they are at the start of the code. Let's try using some blocks to understand about input, output, and events. For event, this block will run when you click the green flag. For input, you can write the number of steps to move. For output, you will hear the meow sound. You can try other blocks to determine if it's an event, input, or output. Blocks can be stacked upon one another. Drag the first block and the rest will move together. Try separating the last block by dragging it away. Snap the block that you previously dragged. Now what if you want to move the second block? The block below will follow. You can rearrange blocks by moving them from the bottom to the top. Now try separating the last two blocks. Press the green flag to see which parts run. Only the code under the green flag will run. The rest of the code will run when you click on it. To know when your code is running, you will see a yellow outline. Let's try to add another sprite. You might notice that your code is gone. Click back on the Scratch sprite. Your code is still here. This is something to keep in mind when you're coding. Be sure that you are on the right sprite. Another way to know if you're on the right sprite is to look at the top right corner here. Before we continue, we need to talk about best practices for software design. These are for coding and making games. Best practices are widely used in the game and other industries. It's something that comes with practice. It helps reduce bugs or errors, makes it easy to collaborate. We'll be bringing out some examples soon. Now we are going to take a look at the Costume tab. You can see that Scratch has two costumes. You'll be able to choose a costume, paint a new costume, or draw directly on a current costume. What's the difference between sprites and costumes? A sprite has a collection of costumes, which has a few costumes for the same character.
You can draw a few costumes to animate the character. You can animate the character by switching the costume. Switch back to the Code tab. You can also draw or upload sprites that you have created or downloaded. You can upload sprites using the Upload Sprite button. You may also use other programs to draw your sprites and elements like Canva, Figma, Piskel, and many more. Alternatively, you can use free open source assets from opengameart.org. Click in the description to learn more. You wouldn't like it if others stole your work. This is how copyright works. Try to get permission when using sprite resources online. This applies to art, sound, game assets, and more. This also applies to open source, royalty-free, or other similar resources online. Most artists simply ask to credit their work. You can do this in the description of your project. This protects their art and allows them to continue their work. Here's a way to drag your code from one sprite to the other. Drag your code into the other sprite and you will see it wiggle. If that didn't work, you can use the backpack. Click on the bottom of the screen and drag your code into it. Now you can go to the other sprite and drag out the code again. Right-click to delete your code if you don't need it, so your backpack will have more space. If you have accidentally deleted a sprite, you can go to Edit and Restore Sprite. Let's see the difference between the same blocks. Run the code to see which one runs longer. You might notice that there is a think block. The difference between these is that one is talking and one looks like it is thinking. Before we start, let's take some time to understand what makes a game atmosphere great. Visual and artistic choices. Overall mood or feeling, like a coffee shop or a library. Sound effects, background music. Think about its lighting, story, and other elements. You might feel on edge when playing a scary game, but optimistic when playing a fun game. Having a good atmosphere will affect the gameplay and overall mood. One way to start a new project is to click on File and New. This option is only available when you're in the coding area. Another way is when you're in My Stuff, and you can create a new project from here. Let's try to change the backdrop. Now let's try to add 2 backdrops. You will see that the previous one has disappeared. One way to access your backdrop is to click on the Stage tab. You will see that this changes to backdrop. Now you can see all your backdrops and delete or add a new one from here. To go back, you can click on Sprite and you can see that this tab changes to Costume. And switch to the Code tab. Add a sound, click on the Sound tab and click on the bottom to add any sound. It will appear in your sound list. You can use a wait block so that both characters won't talk at the same time. Programming happens very fast, so we might not see the difference. Using the wait block allows us to read what each character is saying. You can use these blocks to flip the character to look at each other. Enter -90 degrees to flip the character. Be sure that you're in the right rotation style, otherwise you might not be able to flip it correctly. You can also flip the character in the costume. You can use these blocks to show or hide a character. Or you can check these icons here. You can use these blocks to switch the backdrop.
You may find that you can use more than one stack of event blocks. This allows you to run more than one code at a time. It's like having multiple lanes on a highway, so that more cars or code can drive on it.
Try to give your project a meaningful name so you know where to look for it. Save your project often so you won't lose it.
Now it's time for you to try to do your own animation story. Start a new project and choose the following. Use at least 2 backgrounds and 2 sprites. Get the 2 characters or sprites to talk with each other. Have one character arrive and leave. Change from one background to another. A bonus would be add background music, use a good theme, and use matching environment with characters. Try to avoid remixing another project. That would be not very original. You can choose another theme if Party is not suitable for you. But as long as you have an animation with interaction, you will be able to create your own small animation.
I'm going to space. Yeah. It's so amazing.
Here's how you can share your project. Go into My Stuff and choose the project name. Then click on Share. Your project is now shared. Do add some instructions which tell people how to use your project, or some credits if you use another artwork. Share your project in the comments to be featured. Today we learn about how to test and run some code, best practices in development, game atmosphere and animation. Do you have any thoughts or questions? Let's reflect on what we've learned today. How did you find Scratch interface? Did you had any difficulties making your animation? In the next lesson, we will get more familiar using Scratch. And we'll be learning some key conditional concepts, as well as how to debug a game. Embark on your creative coding adventure with our supportive community. Share your journey, master niche skills, and stand out in the world of programming. Join our Creative Coders community. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay tuned on our next lesson.